Assalamu alaikum, dear audience. My paper ID for the conference is 119. The traumatic impact of online teaching of ELT in the universities of the South Punjab during COVID-19, the post-humanist paradigm of the new pedagogical practices. I am Abdul Rashid, lecturer in English, Bahadur Sub Campus, Layya. First of all is the outline of this presentation. First, we would be dealing with the impact of the COVID-19 on the social assemblage and the traditional mode of teaching and the learning. Secondly, we would be going to discuss the phenomena of the COVID-19 as a post-humanist perspective. Thirdly, the traumatic impact of online teaching due to the non-preparedness during the period of COVID-19. That's majorly the findings of the study. And then is the way forward are the strategies to be adopted in the post-COVID-19 times. First of all, introduction. Coronavirus has impacted several spectrum of the life worldwide, namely social life, economy, health, and education. Therefore, social distancing was proposed to stop the proliferation of the virus in the crowded places such as schools and the universities. On the one hand, the transition of from in-person classes to online instructions occur in a groundbreaking and staggering way, which constitutes a significant challenge for the teachers. They have been adopting their lessons to virtual environment in order to continue their labor of educating learners. To do so, I think educators have encountered and interacted with the numerous outline resources available, i.e., learning management systems, video conferencing, apps, blogs, online games, and collaborative spaces. On the other hand, students taking online lessons could face difficulties that they might never have encountered in the traditional teaching and learning environment. For instance, they are expected to access information and interact with the peers and the teachers through technological devices and applications to sign the appropriate participation. For instance, they are expected to access the information and interact with the peers and teachers through technological devices and applications to sign appropriate participation. However, it should be considered that not even single student is skilled in information communication technologies. Some respond with the enthusiasm and showed a strong desire to become the master of the machines, while others approach the situation with fear and apprehension, which majorly has become the cause for of the trauma, anxiety, and disturbance for them. Majorly was the section of this. Now we establish a position of the COVID-19 as a post-humanist word manifestation and representation. That COVID-19 basically strengthened the shift of post-humanist word. Post-humanism as a movement and critical canon in the literary theory is the recent one. The core of the post-humanist theory focuses on the decentering of human from analysis of the social phenomena. Theories of the postmodern humanism differs in the line of action. The critics of humanism takes humanism against the posthumanism against the essence of social assemblage, while the critics of socio-constructivism take it as an essential element of the change in the social action and persisting social realities. Recently, the phenomena of COVID-19 as a pandemic has shaken the conventional modes of communication. Initially, the world responded in the form of xenophobia, but in the expansion of pandemic of COVID-19, every society was bound to restructure its social assemblage. A major shift which took place during the COVID-19 was a heavily relying on the technology. The world was bound to shift from conventional mode to the online modes. During COVID-19, from marketing to pedagogical practices, the world was bound to rely on the technology. We can project that the increased role of technology during the pandemic of COVID-19 is irreversible even in the time to come as well. So in the post-COVID-19s, we can expect a more post-humanist world. During the current situation of the COVID-19, the world has to undergo major shift. The restrictions imposed by the governments across the globe increase the tendency of online communication. Educational mechanism has also has to shift from the conventional mode and practices to the online teaching. This situation, no doubt, can be named as the post-humanist manifestation in the pedagogical practices, and it demands we people to prepare ourselves according to the upcoming situation of post-humanism as well. Posthumanist, now we come to the define and that to what extent it is appropriate. Posthumanist perspective of pedagogy provides interesting and promising new approaches to move towards a new real social transformation through learning. Imperial considers that the traditional approaches of global learning use shift of perspective, though through learning from an approach that strengthens the forms of Aristotelian contradictions and offer mirroring attitude, which is counterproductive. This attitude only underlines the search for the real and the fact that how it is the hard knowledge instead of comprehending own being as entangled in the world of relations between equal humans and the non-humans, i.e. the nature actors. Based on these assumptions, I will show you the concrete aspects of post-humanist pedagogy that provides conceptual and methodological approaches to the new definition of critical global learning for the higher education and the schools. While going to the online mode of teaching, it was required to measure and address the challenges faced by the universities. And this was the majorly our studies focus. Consequently, our experience of online teaching turned into a very distressful experience for the students, particularly in the Pakistan, and more focusedly and concisely in the South universities of the South Punjab, which is already a very far-flung area and more away from the center and lack the resources and more focusedly the technological resources. They are lacking the technological resources as well. The present studies aim to trace out the impact of online teaching on the university students. Furthermore, it is focused to trace out to what extent we were prepared for a post-humanist pedagogy. If we were not prepared for the post-humanist pedagogical practices, our online teaching would have been a distressful experience for our teachers and the students as well. Now we would be coming to the study and a survey that what was their experience of the students and the teachers. Basically, research designed for the investigation of the traumatic impact of online teaching of ELT students in the universities of the South Punjab. The researchers have designed a questionnaire. In order to measure the responses of the students, a questionnaire was administered online in the form of Google Forms. The questionnaire was distributed to 300 students, out of which 260 respondents. Friend-of-friend technique was used for the selection and distribution of the questionnaire. The questionnaire was distributed in the following universities: Department of English, Bahadur Sub-Campus, Laya; Department of English, Ghazi University, DG Khan; Department of English, Bahauddin Zikri University, Multan Main Campus; Department of English, Institute of Southern Punjab; Department of English, Islamia University, Bahawalpur. These were the majorly selected universities from the South Punjab. Now, these are the basically survey method was used, and the students were asked to respond the questions. Now we would be able to some of major questions I have selected for your view. The major question: online teaching during the pandemic of the COVID-19 was a distressful experience for you. The options were yes and no, and out of this, 80% population responded that it was very distressful experience for we people. Only 20% people, students, responded that it was not distressful for them. Do you consider that your home was not an appropriate for studying online and for this reason you have been depressed? 78.5% people responded that uh, they have to face the distressful experiences at the home because home was not providing appropriate place for learning. Managing your studies at the home along with the household activities at the same time were distressing for you. For this, 50.8% people responded that to a greater extent it was distressful, and 36.9% responded that it was distressful to a lesser extent, and 12.3% responded that it was not distressful as a whole. While we see that the major population of this question responded that it was very distressful for them to study at the home. Do you consider that you have sufficient technological gadgets and proper technical knowledge that is required for online teaching? So from this, 43% responded that we have, and 56.9, which more appropriately is the 57%, is of the total population, responded that we don't have technological resources, and that was very distressful for we people as well. Next, do you consider that online classes, lecture, and assignments are not properly time focused? Some lectures you receive in the early morning and another one late at the night, and it distressed you. So, in response to this question, 39.2% people responded that it was distressful for them to a greater extent. 39.2% responded that it was distressful to some extent, and 9.6% responded that to a lesser extent, while 11.9% that it was not distressful for them. So we see that the major section and the population of this study was in the favor that to a lesser or greater extent it was distressful for them. Do you consider that the lack of proper schedule of online classes and professional coordinations for the teachers force them to stay online all the time, which has been very distressing for the students? So 36.9 students responded that they strongly agree with this. 30.8% responded to the extent of agree. 15.8% remained the neutral. These were the different responses. Do you consider that the lack of proper schedule of online classes and the professional? And do you consider that the reading and highlighting and making short notes for the reading, the teaching material for this in the soft form made you panic? So 48.6% responded to a greater extent, and 28.2% responded that to some extent, and 13.9 responded that to a lesser extent. However, 9.3 people responded that it was not panic for them. When we see the chart as a whole, we come to the and we are able to establish a response that majorly and near about 90%, it's the total population of 90% people who responded that it was panic for them. Do you consider that the issues of internet connectivity made you feel distressed? So 67.1% responded to a great extent, and 21.7% people responded to some extent, while only insignificant might be for the 10% at the 5 to 10% population which responded it into a lesser extent are not at all. So we see that near about 90 to 95% of the population is in our Pakistani universities is facing the internet connectivity issues, and that was very distressful issue for them as well. So it was the from different questions we come to know that, however, in this situation, and particularly in the universities of the South Punjab, our experiences majorly turned into a very traumatic experience. So we have to establish a way for ourselves so that we can, if this situation sustains for a longer period of time, so we can resolve these issues. So we have suggested from our this study that now the world is moving towards a post-humanist way, and we have to accommodate and pace our new technologies in our education as well, and the mode of learning as well. So the following are our suggestions to be implemented for future learning. Develop blended teaching and learning policy of the institutions. Convince the teachers to practice the blended mode of teaching. Train every teacher for the blended mode of teaching. Have online means and apps to practice the blended mode of teaching. Revisit the curriculum to accommodate the blending mode of teaching and the learning. Have provisions for online assessment of the learning as well. Make budgetary provisions to support the blended mode of teaching, both to the teachers and to the students as well. Give equal weightage to the online learning activities, publish the best institutional practices of the online teaching and learning, recognize and appreciate the online teaching and learning initiatives. This was our a survey study. So if any question and answers, you are welcome. Thank you very much.